What if Robb Stark knew about the Red Wedding? This is part 2. If you haven't already watched part 1, go check it out. Otherwise, sit back, like this video, and subscribe. Let's go! The twins had fallen. Walder Frey and Roose Bolton were dead. Their treachery answered with northern steel dire wolf teeth. Catelyn Stark lived, pulled from the river's edge before the darkness could claim her. But Robb Stark knew the battle was not yet over. Winterfell, ancient seat of House Stark, home of kings for 8,000 years, remained in the hands of Ramsay Snow, the Bastard of Roose Bolton, and Robb meant to take it back. But this time, victory would not spread across the realm like wildfire. This time, Robb would control the story as carefully as he controlled his army. Word of what happened at the twins was locked down tight. Only the most trusted lords knew the full truth. Those who'd been there, those whose loyalty was beyond question. To everyone else, rumors spread slowly, uncertainly. Some said the Freys had broken guest right and paid for it. Others said it was northern justice, and Robb deserved the mantle as king of the north. Still others whispered that the young wolf had died at the twins after all, and this was just desperate hope from broken bannermen. Robb wanted it that way. He needed the confusion, the uncertainty. He needed Ramsay Snow to feel safe in Winterfell, to believe he had time, to think no immediate threat was coming from the south. Because Robb Stark was about to move north like a ghost in the snow, and when he struck, the bastard would never see it coming. In the blood-soaked great hall of the twins, with Frey and Bolton corpses still being dragged away, Robb gathered his most trusted commanders, the Great Jon, Mage Mormont, Galbart Glover, the Blackfish, his mother Catelyn, lords who'd proven their loyalty not with words, but with blood and steel.
What happened here stays here. For now. We can't afford this message getting back to Winterfell. Not yet.
The Great Jon frowned, his massive hands on his sword belt.
The North should know we got justice, lad. They should know the Freys and Boltons paid for their treachery.
They will, but not yet. If word reaches Winterfell, if Ramsay knows I'm alive, knows I'm coming, he'll fortify. He'll call in whatever scattered Bolton forces remain. He might even hurt Rickon just to spite us. I won't give him that chance.
Catelyn nodded slowly, understanding.
Yes, you want him to feel safe.
I want him to think he has time. Time to consolidate his hold. Time to send threatening letters. Time to feel like the master of the North. And while he's feeling safe in his stolen castle, I'll be moving north in silence.
The Blackfish stroked his beard thoughtfully.
It'll be hard to keep this quiet. Hundreds of men were here. Servants, prisoners. Word always spreads.
Let it spread slowly. Let the rumors be confused, contradictory. Some say we won, some say we lost. Some say I'm dead, some say I'm marching south to deal with the Lannisters. The more confused the story, the better. Send ravens only to the lords you trust absolutely. Use codes, be vague, and most importantly, no one sends word to Castle Black or anywhere near Winterfell until I'm ready.
What about the bastard Jon? He'll want to know you're alive.
Robb's expression softened slightly.
I'll send word to Jon when the time is right. When I'm in position. He'll understand why I waited.
The lords agreed, though some reluctantly. They wanted to shout their victory from the rooftops, to let the whole realm know the Starks had struck back. But they trusted their king. They'd follow him into silence, as surely as they'd follow him into battle. Over the next few days, carefully worded messages went out to only the most loyal houses. The Mormonts, the Glovers, the Manderleys. Houses that had never wavered, whose loyalty was carved in stone. The messages said little, just enough to tell them Robb lived, that justice had been done, and that they should gather their strength and wait for orders. Tell no one. Trust no one outside your own walls. To everyone else, merchants, traveling singers, ravens sent to neutral or uncertain houses, the story was murky. There'd been some kind of confrontation at the twins. Some say the Freys were dead. Others said the young wolf had fallen into a trap. The rumors spread like fog, thick and confusing, obscuring the truth. And Ramsay Snow, sitting in Winterfell's great hall, heard only whispers and contradictions. Nothing certain, nothing he could act on, just the vague sense that something had happened in the south. But what exactly? No one seemed to know. 2 ravens arrive at Castle Black. The first raven arrived at Castle Black on a bitter cold morning when the wall wept with ice. Jon Snow sat in the Lord Commander's solar, reviewing supply reports and watch rotations, when Maester Aemon's steward brought the black-sealed letter. Jon broke the seal and read words that made his blood run cold as the wall itself. Ramsay's letter was a horror, full of threats, boasts, and demands that turned Jon's stomach. "Come and see," it taunted. The bastard claimed he had Rickon. He claimed he'd flayed the skin from 6 women and made himself a cloak. He wanted his bride, Sansa, returned to him. He wanted Jon's head on a spike. He wanted the wildlings driven back beyond the wall or delivered to him in chains. The words were meant to provoke, to goad, to drag Jon south into a trap laid with malice and carefully planned cruelty. Jon's hands shook as he held the parchment. Around him, the few brothers he'd called to witness, Tormund, Ed, even young Ollie, muttered in anger and disbelief.
"The bastard wants a fight. Give him one crow. We'll paint the snow red with Bolton blood."
Jon opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, a second raven arrived. This one bore a different seal, the grey direwolf of House Stark. Jon's heart hammered in his chest as he broke it open with trembling fingers. The handwriting was Robb's. Jon would know it anywhere.
Brother, I know what the bastard has sent you. Do not reply. Do not march openly. I am coming north with all speed, but almost no one knows. Not the realm, not our enemies, not even most of our allies. What happened at the Twins is done. The Freys and Boltons paid for their treachery. Mother lives, I live. But I've kept this quiet because I need the bastard to feel safe, to think he has time, to believe no immediate threat is coming. Meet me 3 days' ride south of Winterfell, near the old mill on the White Knife. You remember the place. We fished there as boys. Gather what forces you can, but tell no one the full plan, not even your closest men. Just that you're marching to answer Ramsay's letter. We will take back our home together. The bastard thinks he holds all the pieces. He thinks he knows what's coming. He is wrong. When you march on Winterfell, make it loud. Make it visible. Draw him out into the field where he feels strongest. I will be the blade he never sees coming. Burn this letter after you read it. Trust me, Jon, this is how we win. Winter is here. The pack survives. Robb.
Jon read the letter 3 times, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Robb was alive. Robb had won at the Twins. Robb was coming. He held the letter over the brazier and watched the flames consume it, reducing his brother's words to ash and smoke. When he looked up, his face was carefully neutral.
What does it say?
I'm marching south to get Rickon back. Gather anyone willing to come. We leave in 2 days.
He didn't mention Robb. He didn't mention the Twins. He kept his brother's secret because Robb had asked him to, and Jon trusted him completely. Robb Stark moved his army north, like a shadow sliding across fresh snow. No banners flew during the daylight hours. Campfires were kept small, shielded behind rocks and earthworks, snuffed out before dawn. The column moved in broken segments, never appearing as one unified force to any watching eyes. Scouts rode ahead and behind and on both flanks, watching for enemy outriders, for curious travelers, for anyone who might carry word to Winterfell. Any traveler they encountered on the roads was politely but firmly detained, not imprisoned. Robb wouldn't abuse innocent northerners, but kept with the army, fed and housed, told they'd be released soon. No one could ride ahead to Winterfell with news. No one could warn the bastard that an army was coming. The great Jon Umber commanded the outriders with iron discipline that would have shocked southern lords who knew him only as a drunk and a brawler. There were no songs around the fires, no boasts about what they would do to the Boltons, no wasted words at all.
Save your breath, lads.
The great Jon rumbled to his men one frozen morning as they prepared to break camp.
You'll need it when the time comes. the bastard's going to scream plenty for all of us.
His men grinned at that. Cold grins. Wolf grins, and went about their business in silence. Catelyn rode near the rear guard with a small escort, her eyes watchful as a hawk's. She had survived the twins. She had watched Walder Frey's blood pool on his own floors. She had seen justice done to the men who betrayed her son, the men who tried to end House Stark forever. But she would not rest. Not until all her children were safe. Not until Winterfell's gates opened to the direwolf once more. Not until she could stand in the godswood and thank the old gods for their mercy. Small John Umber rode at Robb's right hand, grim-faced and ready. Grey Wind loped alongside Robb's horse, a pale ghost in the snow. The direwolf's ears were constantly moving, listening, and more than once he stopped and stared into the tree line until Robb called him back. The wolf knew. They were hunting now.
"The bastard will expect you to come from the south,"
Small John said one evening as they studied maps by shielded lantern light in Robb's command tent. His finger traced the King's Road.
"He'll have scouts watching here, here, and here. Outriders on every approach."
Let him watch the King's Road.
Robb replied, his voice calm, but edged with cold steel.
Jon will give him something to see there, something loud and obvious. We'll give him something he can't see, something he won't expect until it's far too late.
They moved through forests that few armies had ever crossed, following game trails and hunters' paths that appeared on no maester's map. Hill clansmen and mountain guides led them through terrain that would have broken a southern army. They moved only at night, covering miles in darkness, leaving almost no trace. Scouts went ahead to watch the holdfasts from a distance, making sure no ravens flew, no riders departed. By the time they reached the woods west of Winterfell, Ramsay's sentries had no idea an entire army was breathing down their necks, close enough to smell the smoke from Winterfell's chimneys. One frozen night, when the moon was barely a sliver behind heavy clouds, Robb crept to the edge of the tree line with the Great John and Small John. They could see Winterfell in the distance, torches burning on the walls, smoke rising from the familiar chimneys, the castle he'd been born in, standing gray and strong against the winter sky. But the banners were wrong. The flayed man of House Bolton flew where the direwolf should be, Ramsay's mockery of everything House Stark stood for. Robb stared at those walls for a long moment, his jaw tight, his hands flexing at his sides. Grey Wind sat beside him, perfectly still, watching.
3 days.
Robb said quietly, his breath misting in the frozen air.
Jon will be here in 3 days. We hold this position until then. No fires that can be seen from the castle walls. No movement in daylight, no noise after dark. We become part of the snow, part of the forest. We become ghosts.
The Great John grinned, wolfish and eager, his teeth white in the darkness.
Aye, my king. Let the bastard think he's safe in his stolen castle. Let him think he knows what's coming.
"And when Jon draws him out into the field,
We'll be the jaws that close on him, the wolves he never saw coming."
Jon Snow gathered what forces he could, and he made sure everyone knew about it. Tormund brought wildlings, warriors who owed Jon their lives after he saved them at Hardhome, after he convinced the Night's Watch to let them through the wall. They came with their women and their children, with their rough-forged weapons and their fierce loyalty. They were loud, undisciplined to southern eyes, and they made perfect bait. A handful of Night's Watch brothers who couldn't stomach staying neutral came with him. Jon released them from their vows first, speaking the words in front of the assembled watch, so no man could say they were deserters.
The Night's Watch takes no part in the wars of the Seven Kingdoms. But you are men of the North first. If you choose to fight for your homes, I release you from your oaths with honor.
More than 24 left with him. Riders from small northern houses trickled in like water through cracks in stone. Men from houses so minor they barely had names in the histories, but who remembered that the Starks had ruled justly for thousands of years. They came with whatever they could muster, 12 spears here, 20 mounted men there, a handful of archers with hunting bows. It wasn't a great host by the standards of southern armies, but it was enough to be seen, and that was what mattered. Jon made absolutely sure of that. He flew Stark banners openly on the King's Road, great grey dire wolves on white fields that could be spotted from miles away. He marched in broad daylight, making no effort to hide his numbers or his direction. He lit campfires at night that blazed like beacons across the landscape. He wanted Ramsay's scouts to see him coming. He wanted the bastard to count his forces and feel confident. He wanted Ramsay to think he knew exactly what was coming and exactly how to crush it. Sansa Stark met Jon on the road 3 days from Winterfell, near an abandoned watchtower that had once guarded the King's Road. She rode in with Brienne of Tarth at her side and a small escort of loyal northern soldiers. When Sansa saw Jon riding at the head of the column, she dismounted before her horse, even stopped moving, and ran to him. Jon slid from his own saddle and caught her, and they held each other tight, just brother and sister, reunited in the snow after so much pain and separation.
"He has Rickon,"
Sansa said, when she finally pulled back, her voice tight with controlled anger and barely suppressed fear.
"Ramsay sent riders to nearby holdfasts, boasting about it. He's using our brother as bait."
He nodded, and she knew he already understood. He looked into her eyes. She'd changed so much, grown so much harder and stronger than the girl who dreamed of knights and southern courts.
But Sansa, you need to know, Robb is already here, hidden in the woods west of Winterfell with his whole army, waiting.
Sansa's eyes widened. For a heartbeat she couldn't speak, couldn't even breathe. Her hands came up to cover her mouth.
"Robb is alive? But everyone said the Freys. I heard."
He kept it quiet. He didn't want word reaching Ramsay before he could get into position. The Freys and Boltons are dead. Mother lives, and Robb is about to take Winterfell back.
Sansa's face crumpled for just a moment, relief so profound it was almost painful, before she controlled herself. She wiped her tears away with the back of her hand.
"Let's end him."
Ramsay Snow received regular reports from his outriders about Jon Snow's approaching army. A modest force, wildlings, some northern stragglers, Night's Watch deserters, and a Stark girl who'd run away from her lawful husband. The bastard smiled when he heard the numbers. This was exactly what he wanted. He'd heard vague rumors about something happening at the Twins, confused stories that contradicted each other. Some said the Freys had slaughtered the Starks. Others said there'd been some kind of fight. A few even claimed Robb Stark had won. But those rumors were so scattered and uncertain that Ramsay dismissed them. If the young wolf had won a great victory, surely the whole realm would know by now. The confusion itself convinced Ramsay that nothing important had happened, or if it had, the Starks had lost. Either way, no immediate threat was coming from the south. Ramsay gathered his forces in the field south of Winterfell, the same field where he'd hunted men for sport, where he'd set his dogs loose on fleeing peasants and laughed at their screams. He knew this ground intimately, every rise, every depression, every place where a man might stumble or a horse might shy. He positioned his archers on both flanks with clear lines of fire. He had stakes hidden under fresh snow, sharpened wooden spears that would gut horses and impale men who charged blindly. He had cavalry ready to wheel around and crush any force that tried to retreat. And at the center of it all, he had Rickon Stark in chains, the perfect bait to make Jon Snow break formation and charge like a fool.
"Let the bastard come,"
Ramsay told his assembled captains in Winterfell's great hall the night before the battle. His smile was cold and sharp as a knife.
"Let him watch his little brother run and die. Let him see how powerless he is. Then we'll peel the skin off every wildling he brought south and hang them from our walls as a lesson to anyone who thinks they can challenge House Bolton."
His men cheered. They banged their fists on the tables. They believed their lord was invincible, that the flayed man would fly over Winterfell forever. They didn't know Robb Stark was already there, hidden in the trees like a hunter waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They didn't know that their lord's confidence was built on lies and misdirection, that the young wolf had fed him exactly the story he wanted to hear. They didn't know they were already dead. Jon's army marched onto the field south of Winterfell as a weak sun struggled to break through grey clouds. The ground was frozen hard as stone, the snow crunching under thousands of feet. The wind bit through leather and fur and wool, sharp as a blade drawn across skin. Ramsay rode out with his personal guard, that terrible smile plastered across his face like a mask. He sat his pale horse like a king, surveying his domain, like a man who'd never known defeat.
"Snow!"
Ramsay called out, his voice carrying across the frozen ground.
"You've come a long way to die. I hope the journey was worth it."
Jon said nothing. His face was stone, carved from northern ice. His hand rested on Longclaw's hilt, and he could feel the wolf's head pommel cold against his palm. Ramsay raised his hand with theatrical slowness, and armed men dragged Rickon Stark forward from the ranks behind him. The boy looked thin and terrified, his clothes filthy, his face bruised, but he stood as straight as he could manage, trying to be brave, trying to be a Stark. Ramsay looked at Jon and let his smile widen into something inhuman.
"Your brother wants to come home,"
Ramsay said, savoring each word like fine wine.
"Let's see if he can run fast enough."
He pulled a knife and cut Rickon's bonds with a flourish. Then he shoved the boy forward, hard enough to make him stumble.
"Run to Jon,"
Ramsay said softly, but loud enough for everyone to hear.
"If you make it all the way there, you're free. Run, little Stark. Run like the wolf you claim to be."
Rickon ran. His legs pumped hard against the frozen ground, his breath coming in ragged clouds that streamed behind him. He was young and frightened and running for his life toward the only family he had left. Behind him, Ramsay drew his bow with slow, deliberate movements. He nocked an arrow and drew the string back with practiced ease. He wanted Jon to see every motion. He wanted Jon to understand exactly what was about to happen. He wanted Jon to break, to charge forward in a desperate attempt to save his brother, to throw away all tactics and strategy for a doomed, heroic gesture. Jon started forward instinctively, his horse moving before he consciously decided. Sansa grabbed his arm hard, her fingers digging in.
"Wait, Robb said wait."
"He'll kill him,"
Jon said through gritted teeth, his voice raw.
"He's going to kill Rickon right in front of us."
"Trust Robb, Jon. You have to trust him. This is what Ramsay wants. Don't give it to him."
Ramsay drew the bowstring back to his ear. He aimed with the care of a master archer, his eye tracking Rickon's running form. He took a breath, held it. He released. The arrow flew, a black streak against the white snow. A war horn split the frozen air, not from Jon's lines, but from the west, from the tree line where nothing should be. The sound cut through the field like a blade through silk, clear and sharp and utterly unexpected. The great Jon Umber burst from the concealing trees, with 200 heavy cavalry at his back, their horses throwing up clouds of snow like white smoke. Their lances were leveled, their shields were locked, their faces were set like stone. They had ridden in silence for days, ghosting through the northern forests like shadows. They were not silent now. The great Jon's war cry was a sound from the Age of Heroes, from before the Andals came, from when the first men fought with bronze and stone. His riders echoed it, and the sound rolled across the field like thunder. Small Jon Umber led a second wedge from the north, appearing from ground that had seemed empty moments before. His banner, the roaring giant of House Umber, snapped in the wind, and Robb Stark, the young wolf, the king in the north, who Ramsay thought was dead or far away or dealing with problems in the south, came roaring from the hidden ridge with the full weight of his northern army behind him. Hundreds of cavalry, thousands of infantry, banners filling the sky like a forest of grey wolves. The Great Jon's giant, the Mormont bear, the Manderly merman. Every house that had stayed loyal, every bannerman who remembered, every soldier who'd survived and stayed silent until this moment. Grey Wind ran at the front of the charge, howling, a sound that made men's blood run cold, that reminded them wolves had ruled the north since before there were kingdoms, since before there were kings. Ramsay's arrow went wide. It hissed into the snow 20 feet from Rickon, carving a useless furrow in the frost before disappearing into a drift. The bastard spun in his saddle, his eyes wide with genuine shock. Perhaps the first real emotion anyone had ever seen on his face, besides cruelty. His mouth opened in disbelief.
No, that's impossible. Where did they... how...
His mind raced. The rumors, the confusion about the twins. It had all been lies, misdirection, a story fed to him deliberately to keep him blind. The northern charge hit Ramsay's rear like an avalanche crashing down a mountain, like the wall itself falling on men's heads. The first line of Bolton soldiers shattered instantly, men and horses going down in a catastrophic tangle of screams and steel and breaking bones. The second line tried desperately to turn and face this new threat, and couldn't. They crashed into their own men, into the stakes they'd planted for their enemies, into chaos and death. The third line broke and ran before the northern cavalry even reached them. They'd heard the stories of Robb Stark. They'd heard about the young wolf who'd never lost a battle, who moved like a ghost through the Westerlands. And now he was here, behind them, where he couldn't possibly be, where no scouts had reported, where no rumors had warned them. Their courage broke like rotten ice. They threw down their weapons and ran. Jon kicked his horse forward and rode hard for Rickon. The boy had stopped running, frozen in place between the two armies, not knowing which way to go. Jon reached him in seconds, leaned down, and hauled his little brother across his saddle with one strong arm. Rickon clung to Jon, gasping for air, his whole body shaking.
Never!
Jon said fiercely, his arm tight around his brother.
Never again, hold on!
Arrows fell around them like black rain, but none found their mark. The Bolton archers were shooting wild now, panicking, trying to hit targets that moved too fast, and caring less about accuracy than about just doing something to stop the tide turning against them. Jon reached his own lines and passed Rickon to Sansa, who pulled the boy into her arms and held him so tight he could barely breathe. She buried her face in his hair and let the tears come freely now. Ramsay tried to rally his men, screaming orders that no one could hear over the chaos of battle, over the screams of dying horses and dying men, over the sound of northern steel cutting through Bolton mail. But the northern cavalry was everywhere, appearing from impossible angles, cutting through his formations like they weren't even there. The great Jon smashed through Ramsay's left flank like a war hammer through glass, his enormous sword rising and falling, each blow sending another Bolton soldier to whatever dark gods they prayed to. Small Jon shattered the right flank like an axe through winter ice, his men following in a wedge that couldn't be stopped. Robb's center crushed the rear with methodical, brutal efficiency, professional soldiers who knew their business and had been planning this moment for weeks. Ramsay drew his own sword and slashed wildly at anyone near him. Friend or foe, it didn't matter anymore. He was cornered, and for the first time in his life, he felt what his victims had always felt. Genuine, throat closing, fear.
Stand and fight,
he screamed at his men, spittle flying from his mouth.
Stand, you cowards! I'll flay every man who runs. I'll hang your skins from the walls.
But his soldiers were throwing down their weapons. Some knelt in the blood-soaked snow, hands raised. Some ran for the tree line, hoping to disappear into the forest. The flayed man banners, that hated symbol of Bolton cruelty, fell into the mud one by one and were trampled beneath northern boots. Robb Stark rode through the chaos with cold purpose, grey wind at his side like a second shadow. He saw Ramsay flailing in the center of the collapsing formation, saw the bastard cutting at his own men, saw the madness taking hold. Robb turned his horse directly toward him. The Great Jon reached Ramsay first. He swung his massive sword in a brutal horizontal arc that would have taken Ramsay's head clean off if the bastard hadn't ducked. Instead, the blade knocked Ramsay's own sword spinning away into the snow with a shower of sparks. Small Jon grabbed the reins of Ramsay's pale horse with one huge hand and yanked the animal sideways with terrifying strength, muscles standing out like iron cables. Ramsay tumbled hard from the saddle, hitting the blood-soaked snow with a meaty thud that drove the air from his lungs. Robb dismounted slowly, deliberately. He handed his reins to a nearby soldier and walked forward. In his hands, he carried ice, the great sword of House Stark, reforged and returned to the north after the Lannisters stole it. Ramsay looked up at him and laughed, a bitter, broken sound that echoed wrong in the cold air. The laugh of a man whose mind was cracking like ice over deep water.
You're supposed to be dead. The Freys, the rumors, everyone said you were.
Everyone said what I wanted them to say.
Robb interrupted quietly. His voice was calm, almost gentle, which somehow made it more terrifying.
You thought you knew what was coming. You thought you were safe. You thought you had time.
Understanding dawned in Ramsay's eyes, followed immediately by rage.
You lied. You manipulated the...
I learned from the best, from men who broke guest right and betrayed their oaths, from men who thought they were clever. But here's the thing about clever plans, Ramsay. They only work if your enemy doesn't see them coming, and you never saw me at all.
Someone will gut you in the night. Someone will put a knife in your back. Someone always does. That's what you Starks do. You die. You're too noble, too honorable, too stupid to survive, just like your father. Just like...
My father.
Robb interrupted. His voice still quiet, but harder now, colder.
Taught me that the man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. He taught me that you look a man in the eye when you take his life. He taught me duty and honor and justice.
He raised ice high above his head. The blade caught the pale winter sun for just a moment. Gray steel, rippled like water, unbreakable.
You taught the North only fear and pain, and now the North answers.
He brought the blade down in one clean stroke. It was over. They brought what remained through Winterfell's gates, wrapped in a Bolton cloak, not as a lord, but as a warning to anyone who would betray the North again. The flayed man banners came down one by one, ripped from the walls by northern hands, trampled into the mud, thrown into fires. The grey direwolf went up in their place, grey on white, the ancient sigil of House Stark, snapping clean and proud in the winter wind. That night, they gathered in the great hall of Winterfell, the hall where Brandon the Builder had feasted 8,000 years ago, where kings in the north had held court, where the Stark family had laughed and lived and loved for countless generations. The fires burned bright and warm for the first time in what felt like years, driving back the cold and the darkness. Food was simple but plentiful. Roasted meat, dark bread, turnips and onions, good northern ale. Robb sat at the high table with Jon on his right and Sansa on his left. Rickon sat next to Sansa, pressing close to her as if afraid she might disappear. Catelyn sat beside Robb, her hand resting lightly on his arm, just touching him to know he was real. The Great Jon and Small Jon stood nearby, cups raised high, grinning like wolves.
That was brilliantly done,
Jon said, looking at his brother with genuine admiration.
Keeping it quiet, making Ramsay think he was safe. I've never seen a trap close so perfectly.
Robb shook his head.
It wasn't just me. Every man who kept silent, every lord who sent no ravens, every scout who detained travelers without hurting them, they all made this possible. The North did this together.
Still, you knew Ramsay would feel confident if he thought you were far away. You knew he'd draw Jon out into the field if he felt safe. You played him like a master plays a harp.
I learned from the men who tried to kill us. The Freys and Boltons thought they were clever. They thought a surprise attack under guest right would end House Stark. So I gave them what they wanted. And then I did the same to Ramsay. Sometimes you have to fight cleverness with cleverness.
What now? The Boltons are finished, but winter is here. The realm is still at war. What comes next?
Robb looked around the hall, at the brothers and sister he'd fought so hard to protect, at the mother he'd almost lost, at the bannermen who'd stayed loyal through everything, at the home that was finally theirs, again.
Now we hold, we rebuild what the Boltons broke. We prepare for winter, the real winter, not just snow and cold, but what's coming from beyond the wall. We strengthen our walls, gather our food, forge our steel, and we tell the realm the truth. The North is ours again. House Stark stands, and anyone who comes for us will face the same fate as the Freys and Boltons.
Sansa reached across the table and took Robb's hand. Her grip was tight, fierce.
Thank you for coming, for not giving up, for bringing us home.
Robb squeezed back, his throat tight. Jon raised his cup high, and the hall fell silent. He made a simple yet powerful toast. The hall roared back, and cups crashed together, and for the first time in far too long, Winterfell rang with laughter and life. Outside, snow began to fall again, clean and white and quiet, covering the blood-soaked field like a merciful shroud. Winterfell's walls stood strong, rebuilt and reinforced by northern hands. And the Starks, broken and scattered and nearly destroyed, were finally, truly home. That's how Robb Stark reclaimed Winterfell through silence and strategy, keeping his victory secret until the moment he could strike. The Game of Thrones is far from over, but the wolves have their den back. The North remembers, and the Starks stand together again. If you enjoyed this story, like, share, and subscribe. We'll be exploring more what-if scenarios from the world of ice and fire soon. Winter is here, and so are we.